We are talking about writing equations of lines, and we want to write the equation of a line that passes through the given 2 points. So here we have 6, -2, and 1, 3. So my favorite form to write it in would be y equals mx plus b. So when we have this, we're gonna have two constant values, which will be the slope and the y-intercept, and then we're going to leave the y and the x as a variable. But in order to do that, the first thing we have to do is we have to calculate the slope. So remembering that the equation for slope, sometimes it's hard to remember. So I always put this information out first. So we have the divide sign, the minus sign, and then I say, okay, we want to have, we always want to keep it as ordered pairs. So if I put y sub 1 here, x sub 1 goes underneath it. And then if I put y sub 2 here, x sub 2 goes underneath it. So we're just substituting those values into that equation. So we have m equals, and I'm going to put my divide sign and my minus sign, and we're going to substitute these values in. So the first thing, my first ordered pair I'm going to pick, I have my y value, which is -2, and my x value, which is 6. And then I have my y value, which is 3, and my x value, which is 1. And then we can go ahead and solve that. So the slope is going to be equal to -2 minus 3 is -5 over 6 minus 1 is +5. So the slope is equal to -1. The next thing I want to do is I want to pick one of the points and the slope, and I can substitute it into the point slope form, and that will help me find out my y-intercept from there. So the things that don't change: y minus the equal sign, x minus. So we've calculated the slope already, and now we're going to calculate the equation line in y equals mx plus b form. So now I have to pick one of my points and substitute the slope in. Well, the slope we calculated was -1, and the point that I'm going to use is going to be 6, -2. So 6 goes here, and -2 goes here. And it doesn't matter which one you pick, any one will work. So the first thing that we want to do is distribute. If we distribute the -1 into the parentheses, negative or minus a negative is a positive. So that becomes -1x. And then -1 times -6 is +6. And then we can subtract 2 from both sides to get rid of that 2. And then we have y equals -1. And then 6 minus 2 is +4. So we had first we had to calculate slope. Next, after we calculated the slope, we had to substitute in using the point slope form of the equation. So we have the given point, which was 6, -2, and the slope was -1. And then we simplify or evaluate the equation to combine like terms, and then we get y equals -1x plus 4. And then we can look at number 6. So the same thing again. First, we want to calculate the slope, and we have that equation still written there. So the equation for slope is m equals, and then I'm always going to put my divide sign, and I'm always going to put my 2 minus sign so I don't forget those. Then we'll substitute in the values. So we have y1, which is 1, and x1, which is 5. Those always go vertically stacked. And then we do the same thing. We have the -3, which is our y, and the -5, which is our x. And that's why I always put that negative in there already to make sure I don't forget it. So then we get m equals 1 plus a -3, or 1 minus a -3 is the same thing as adding, so that becomes 4. And 5 minus a -5, that's adding, so that's 10. And we can reduce this. We can divide both numerator and denominator by 2 to simplify that fraction. And so we get our slope is equal to 2/5. Then we can go back and do the same steps we did as the previous equation, or we can do it another way where we have our y equals mx plus b form, and we just substitute values in that way. So y equals mx, and then our m, and then we want to say plus b. And either way will work. Whichever one you're more comfortable with is fine. So we get to pick one of these values to substitute in for y and x. And in this case, I'm going to use 5 and 1. So 1 is the y value, and 5 is the x value. The equal sign is still going to be there. Our slope we calculated already was 2/5. And we don't know what our b value is, so I'm just going to put plus b. So we substituted values in for the variable x and y, and now we can solve for that last variable. When we multiply this together, it's a fraction. So we have just in a little bubble over here, we'll just kind of do this work. If we have 2/5 times, or multiplied by, if it's just 5, we understand that there is a 1 written underneath. So there's 2 ways you can do it. You can multiply across. 2 times 5, that is equal to 10. 5 times 1 is 5. 10 divided by 5 is equal to 2. Or you can do it another way, where you say 2/5 times 5/1. And we say, oh, the 5's cancel. That's equal to 2. Both of them get us to the right answer either way. I prefer this bottom one here, but if you want to do that, you can. So our slope becomes 2. So we have 1 is equal to 2 plus b. And then we can subtract 2 from both sides. And then we get -1 is equal to b. And then we can substitute those values in. So we have the slope and the y-intercept. Substitute those values in. We get y equals, and then the x, so those are never going to change. And then our slope we calculated was 2/5. And our y-intercept is -1. So there's the equation in slope-intercept form.